Buried beneath the seaside town of Ramsgate, England, lies a hidden network of over 3.5 miles of tunnels. Although people flock here to enjoy the sun, it was once a vulnerable wartime target. The safety it provided underground made an indelible mark on history.
The tunnels were known to Hitler, but they couldn't be destroyed.
This unlikely civilian bomb shelter became a permanent refuge after a devastating attack known as the Murder Raid.
They turned over the town and dropped 300 bombs.
What was subterranean life like for tens of thousands of people? And how did construction innovations make this life-saving network possible?
It was one of the largest construction projects in the country.
Situated on the east coast of Britain, the town of Ramsgate was one of the great seaside resorts of the 18th and 19th century.
Princess Victoria stayed in a hotel just up on the cliff top.
Although the town's well known for royal visitors, its most significant features were built beneath, starting with a subterranean railway that connected the harbor with the main train line. Helen Seton is a local expert.
The railways arrived in Ramsgate in 1846. In 1863, this tunnel was opened and it came out onto a station right next to the beach.
But this seaside getaway sometimes fell in the line of fire. From 1914 to 18, World War I was raging. Ramsgate's proximity to Europe was now attracting a far more unwelcome visitor.
The mighty Zeppelins and those early aeroplanes would use Ramsgate as a target, and they would follow the coast around and then up the Thames to drop bombs on London. As they came over Ramsgate, they would drop bombs as well.
29 residents lost their lives in these World War I bombing raids. But more was yet to come. By 1936, as potential conflict loomed with Germany, local engineer Richard Brimmel came up with an ingenious plan to protect the town's residents from a future attack.
He realized, watching the newsreel footage of the Spanish Civil War and finding out about the tunnels underneath Barcelona, that the people of Ramsgate could do better than inadequate surface shelters.
Brimmel designed a network of air raid precaution tunnels beneath the town, using the railway tunnel as its hub.
The council turned them down flat. Far too expensive. What do we need this for anyway? There's not going to be a war.
However, in 1938, Ramsgate elected a new mayor, Arthur Bloomfield Courtney Kemp. ABC Kemp, as he was known, supported Brimmel's proposal and enlisted World War I Air Force Captain H.H. Balfour to assist in the construction of the tunnel system.
The need for tunnels after the experience of the First World War was made even more imperative by the fact that there was an RAF fighter base 2 miles outside the town, and Ramsgate was in the direct flight path.
In 1939, after several rejections by the British government due to cost and foreign policy conflicts, Kemp and Balfour finally received approval to break ground on their 2.5-mile-long network. And by March 1939, just months before Britain entered World War II, excavation began on what would become the largest air raid shelter in Britain.
80, mainly Kent miners, were employed. They worked in 2 shifts of 40, 12 hours a shift, and the work carried on 7 days a week.
By August 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, and Britain declared war on Germany. Bombing raids were now inevitable, and these tunnels needed to be finished quickly.
They started work at a rate of 24 feet a day, which is roughly where I'm standing back to you.
In an amazing feat of human strength, skill, and backbreaking labor, the 80 miners managed to dig out 2.5 miles of tunnels by hand in just 9 months. How the tunnel system protected the 30,000 residents from the German Air Force was remarkable.
12 permanently open entrances meant that no one in the centre of town was further than 5 minutes from safety when the sirens started. It was essential that people could get underground rapidly because it only took the German fighters 5 minutes to get across the channel.
But how they constructed the tunnels needed to take into consideration the soft chalk they were digging in, as tunnel manager Isaac Naylor explains.
As easy as chalk is to dig through, they still had to employ pneumatic shovels to be able to cut away at the front, and then that was then broken up and shoveled by hand into some small mine carts. The tunnels were 7 feet wide by 6 foot high. Any larger than this and they would have been made unstable.
Despite their stability, the tunnels still required some reinforcement. So engineers utilized a unique building material for the time.
We've actually been walking uphill on a gradient of 1 in 600. We've now got the concrete reinforcing, some 12 inches of reinforced concrete, primarily because as we go above 30 feet, chalk becomes weaker and weaker.
Construction shafts were built to provide access for the miners.
This is a construction shaft, one of 11, that was bored down from the surface to allow the miners to excavate the spoil that they had created while digging. Their diesel locomotives pulled the trucks to points like this. The trucks were turned 90 degrees before being pushed into the centre there.
At the heart of Brimmel's design was the use of Ramsgate's existing Victorian railway tunnel and infrastructure.
We've got the ventilation shaft above our heads to make sure that all of the smoke and debris that was being created as the trains ran through, it had a chance to escape out up into the atmosphere.
When the sirens sounded, warning of an imminent attack, people had only minutes to get below ground.
We're now standing at one of the original entrances. This would have all originally been open to the elements.
The entrances were designed to have a funneling effect to fit as many people in as possible at the initial entry point.
By the time they got down towards the tunnels themselves, there would be no more than 2 people standing abreast, so they could filter off into the smaller tunnels.
The shelter's capacity was intentionally designed to accommodate double the population of Ramsgate.
There's enough room within these tunnels to house 60,000 people. That was 30,000 permanent residents and an additional 30,000 holidaymakers who our mayor, ABC Kemp, felt that even during the Second World War, people would still want to come on their summer holidays. The town were then marketed as the safest resort in the country.
Richard Brimmel's custom-built tunnels were like none seen before in Britain, engineered to protect the lives of every man, woman, and child in Ramsgate, as the Luftwaffe bombarded them from above.
Each of the entrances, we had 2 right-angle bends to counteract bomb blast and shrapnel. Should a bomb land on or near the entrance, it wouldn't be able to penetrate any further into the tunnel network.
These right angles were to prove incredibly effective on one particular night, known as the Murder Raid.